What TV show did you love while watching but realized it was garbage once you looked back on it? Once Upon a Time. I enjoyed the first 3 seasons, but looking back on it, it was a pretty bad show. A repetitive plot, lots of plot holes, character development that made no sense, extremely cheesy writing, horrible green screen landscapes, crappy CGI, and a really repetitive plot. Am I the only one who watched Deadliest Warrior? I thought it was quality TV as a teenager, but now looking back, it reeked of bias and a totally 100% legit, not opinionated combat simulator. The fight scenes were neat though. Law and Order. Noticed every show followed a predictable formula. If they caught the perp before the halfway point, they got the wrong guy. You always knew it was someone else. Pimp My Ride. Now, I'm not claiming it was the best show on television, but kid me lapped that crap up. I 100% believed that everything done to the cars was real. Exactly, but now I realize that 50% of the mods they did to those cars were pointless, and the other 50% were beyond pointless. They never even touched the engines, transmissions, wiring, or anything remotely functional, practical, or mechanical. Looking back, it's one of the stupidest shows I've ever voluntarily watched, and none of the cars were actually ever better off than before that they were butchered on the show. They were junk before, and they were junk after. One of the car owners featured on the show actually did an AMA recently and said that his car didn't even run after the filming wrapped. Does anyone remember Johnny Test? Yeah, no. True Blood. I dare you all to go rewatch Season 5 and tell me I'm wrong. I still think Season 1 is great. It definitely went downhill after that. I managed to still enjoy it until Season 4 though. I suffered through Season 5 and stopped after that. I read the episode summaries for the last 2 seasons after they aired though, simply because I was invested in the main characters and still wanted to see what happened to them. CSI. I remember when it first started airing here in the UK. Everybody discussed it as this slightly highbrow, scientific, intelligent, and intriguing detective show. Looking back, it is absolutely none of those things. Most of the episode's plots are total contrivances. They apparently use microfuses to analyze blood and DNA samples. The characters are mostly either dumb stereotypes or non-existent. And who doesn't love a good zoom and enhance? Look, I'll just clean up this picture by increasing the resolution and zooming in on an extrapolated reflection. Exactly. Everyone I knew loved the show when it came out. People really thought it was an accurate portrayal of CSI teams and that they were watching intelligent TV. Of course, there really wasn't anything else like it then, so it's no surprise that they would think that. But now, it's freaking laughable, and it has been for close to 20 years. I think. Enough is enough. Let the thing die quietly. I actually don't think it was that terrible all along. It's certainly not highbrow television, it's a generic police procedural made for entertainment purposes, but it did go downhill significantly as time went on. I mean, the early seasons of the original series are Shakespeare compared to the crap that was CSI Cyber. I watched the entirety of Gossip Girl. I realized it was more that I loved watching it because I was watching it with a girl I was in love with at the time. It was something we'd always do together. But then she left uni for a year, and I still watched that goddamn crap show until the end because I needed to know who Gossip Girl was. Tried to watch it again recently, and Jesus Christ, it's awful. Oh my gosh, they just kept recycling each other's exes. Like, do you not realize there are other people in the world? As for the identity of Gossip Girl, that is twisted and obsessive, and that individual needs some serious psychotherapy. Or when they did find someone outside of the circle of friends, they ended up being schemers trying to take them all down. Deal or No Deal. So tedious to watch. Sprinkling in commercials after every 2 deals did not help. Glee. Loved it while it was on, or at least until the original crew graduated. A friend showed me a clip a few weeks ago, and it's just terrible. Gilmore Girls. I love-hate that show. I watch it now and still love it, but I realize what selfish pieces of crap all the main characters are. Rory is the worst. I actually love Rory in the sense that she's a realistic portrayal of a human being, especially in the Netflix revival. She was infuriating, but what else would you expect from a girl who was raised without regard for money? She was completely entitled, but it was a reflection of the way that she was raised. Talk about real character development. I'm glad it wasn't some feel-good, unrealistic fairy tale ending. One Tree Hill. I was hopelessly in love with Chad Michael Murray. Ah, high school. Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. This is actually on purpose. It's the best example of so bad it's good. I would unironically recommend this show to everyone. It's great. As a kid, I used to enjoy Caillou. I'm so sorry. Full House. Like 90% of the anime I watched in middle school, high school, and college, and currently. I like anime that parodies a genre like One Punch Man or Kill la Kill. The problem is that they can get kind of repetitive once they run out of jokes. The Big Bang Theory. The first few seasons were actually good, I'll give it that. Watched a recent episode just to see what everyone hates on it for, and yeah, it has really gone downhill. I loved Fairly OddParents when I was a kid, but I watched a newer episode recently, and to God, was it terrible. Why do they have a baby now? They have a baby, a freaking dog, and Timmy has a new neighbor or some crap like that. The only reason they keep adding new characters is to keep the ratings afloat. Ben 10. I used to love the weird plot and crazy transformations. I watched it again and it was really cheesy with basic jokes, bad animation, etc. Pretty Little Liars. I was on season 4ish with my cousins, all binge watching, and then I missed an episode and decided to forget about it. Looking back, all it was, A is there. No, she's A. No, he's A. No, A is there. There have been 7 seasons, and there's no official A. A ton of anime that, looking back, was pretty much Twilight for guys. They appealed to male sexual fantasies in the stupidest way possible. Tenchi Muyo, Love Hina, Oh My Goddess. I used to think that they were brilliant pieces of art when I was 14. Looking back, why? Just why? Oh, bland, extremely generic and average teenage boy. I and all of the other girls with a veritable rainbow of different hair colors and huge boobs love you so much for no reason, and now you have to have semi-romantic interactions with us that will never ever lead anywhere real because we're never going to actually get to any romance. MTV's Next. You can't deny that it's a guilty pleasure though. Next! I remember one time this woman got off the Next bus, came strutting down the path towards the guy, and he just looked at her and said, "I don't find you attractive. Next." Not even a hello first. She got 2 cents. It was hilarious. Fairy Tail. One of the first ongoing anime I got into and kept up with it religiously. As I got older, I gradually noticed the issues, until one particular arc was so awful it led me to do a double take and realize how crap the writing has always been. I'll always be fond of the time I spent enjoying it, but it can stay in the past where it belongs. Freaking Natsu survives on the power of friendship only, too. Natsu has gotten power-ups from the dumbest crap. He can eat fire to power up his own fire. Okay, that makes sense. Well, at some point, he can also eat magical crystals and even lightning for some frickin' reason, and it powers up his magic. He gets power from friendship like in every fricking arc. At one point, he runs out of magic, and instead of resting to regain it or something, he just pulls magic from the future and uses it. But some of the fights were pretty cool, so I kept up with it for quite a while. 13 Reasons Why. I binge-watched it, and quite literally, as the last episode ended, I thought, that show wasn't good. Cat Dog. I used to be freaking obsessed with that show. I tried to watch it pretty recently, and it was just meh. 8-year-old me would be so disappointed. Charmed, for sure. Watching as a teenage boy, that show was delightful for obvious reasons. Watching it as a married adult, those plots were thinner than the outfits. I came here for this. I loved Charmed when I was 13 to 15 or so. Girl power and witches, you know, but looking back at it, damn, it's not so great. The catchy intro still gets me hyped on nostalgia though. Sonic X. Good lord, it's so awful. Way too many human characters, Chris, Chuck, that teacher who is totally not a stalker, stereotypical Mexican maid, stereotypical Japanese butler, etc. Also, make sure that you have the token black friend and disabled friend for the diversity quota. Annoying theme song. Too fast-paced and repetitive. Chris Thorndike steals everyone's roles. It's like Sonic and Tails barely even know each other since Chris stole the entire purpose of Tails' existence, being Sonic's sidekick and best friend. Repetitive plots, strays way too far from the games. They also drastically changed a lot of the characters' personalities. I'll give a good example. Amy Rose. While in the games, she does have stalker-like tendencies, which have been toned down in more recent games. In this show, they made her a straight-up short-tempered psychopath who gets enraged over everything. Sonic also naps on rooftops all the time, which is the exact opposite of his personality. That was the crap when I was in elementary school, but it really isn't that good 10 years later. Believe it or not, the show was panned in Japan, and the final season wasn't even released there. Fun fact, the theme song for Rouge is titled Mysterious and Sexy Thief Rouge. It's also a saxophone song. I crap you not. Sons of Anarchy wasn't garbage, but I initially thought it was my favorite TV show material. That was before the Ireland season and forced dialogues and such later on. Tonight on Sons of Anarchy, Jax promises someone he is not going to let X happen. X happens. Ren and Stimpy. I know it has this cult-like following, but I've rewatched some episodes as an adult. It's just dumb, not funny, loud. I was hoping it would be like Rocko's Modern Life. I rewatched some of those episodes and found it actually funnier because I could relate to some of the adult humor I didn't understand when I was younger. Rocko's Modern Life is such a good show, it does indeed stand the test of time. So does The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Jersey Shore. My god, what was I thinking? You weren't thinking at all. Highlander the series. I loved it as a kid, and when I watched a few episodes of the first season a couple of years back, I was sure that I was being lied to. No way it was that awful. Well, it was that awful. Pretty Little Liars. It's not garbage, but it never goes anywhere. Oh no, it's garbage. Yeah, I loved watching it as a teenager, been trying to rewatch the series since the final 10 episodes are back, and I can barely get through it without gagging. I do kinda remember the later seasons getting a little better though. Arrow Season 4. So bad that r/Arrow had changed to a Daredevil sub. The Tribe. Some crappy Kiwi soap opera that was huge when I was a kid, but man, that crap is cringeworthy now. For the longest time, I thought I had dreamt this show up. I'm American, and frickin' nobody I have ever met in person knows The Tribe. When Anna Nicole Smith had her own reality series with her lawyer, her pillow-humping dog, and her toothless cousin. God, it was like watching a train wreck. Back then, E! had some ethically questionable reality series. The other was poor Tara Reid and her jetting-setting adventure into alcoholism. Luckily, Tara didn't end up dying in a Florida casino. The 100. It's the kind of show that is an absolutely enjoyable wild ride to binge, but once you actually look at it, you realize that the science is horrendous, and much of the premise makes no sense. How does humanity devolve so much in 97 years? Plus, while the final stretch of every season is always great, the beginnings usually range from mediocre to trash. It's still my guilty pleasure though. Wait, crap, it was only 97 years? I thought it had been hundreds. Yep, in the books, it's 300. Don't understand why the creators didn't stick to that timeline. It would have made so much more sense. For me, it was Sword Art Online. My first and last attempt to watch an anime. The action parts looked amazing, but the writing/characters just made me eye roll looking back at it. Good god, try Cowboy Bebop or something. Whoever suggested that to be your defining anime experience had to be an idiot. The only good thing about SAO was the premise, which they never really capitalized on. There's far, far better stuff out there. Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Mighty Morphin for me. I remember it being awesome, and it does have its moments, but honestly, it's garbage. It's like 96% filler episodes that don't even push the characters' personalities, acting ranging from just bad to cringeworthy, and villain plots that are just downright stupid and make no sense. Once Tommy joins, they just worship the ground he walks on and no one else really matters. I distinctly remember when the White Ranger mystery was going on as to, who is the White Ranger? OMG, mystery! And I was like, it's Tommy. Who are they kidding? It's Tommy. And when he dramatically took off his helmet, little me was roaring at the TV, I knew it! Glee. Oh my god. I was a hardcore gleek. I cringe at myself looking back. I memorized all the songs, watched and repeatedly rewatched all of the episodes, and had all the merchandise. I was obsessed, to say the least. I stopped watching it around season 4. It stopped being fun for me. I rewatched some episodes of the first season just yesterday actually, since I hadn't seen it in about 6 years, and I was feeling nostalgic. To be honest, the first season wasn't too bad. At least, there was a solid plot to it. The second season onwards, however, was a mess. Rubbish. Looking back, I think I first got into Glee to fill a void. I wasn't confident, and I didn't have friends at the time, and I guess I just wanted an escape. I hated that they started writing episodes around a theme or songs rather than finding the songs to fit the plot, if that makes any sense. I used to be obsessed with Sailor Moon. It's on Hulu now. It does not hold up. I mean, I'm still watching the entire thing over from the beginning because of nostalgia, but I'm not enjoying it. Malcolm in the Middle. Just kidding, it totally holds up and is incredible to rewatch even a decade plus later. WWE. Whenever I watch it now, I can't help laughing. Hey now, it's not the best it's been, granted. However, I can spend hours watching late 90s to mid 2000s WWE on YouTube. Randy Orton versus Mick Foley, the Hardy Boys, classics right there. How I Met Your Mother. The live-action TMNT show. Absolutely loved it as a kid. Saw it was on Netflix a while back and was like, hell yeah, nostalgia train, here I come. I will never get that 25 minutes back. Criminal Minds. Loved that show when I was a teenager and into my early 20s. I'll occasionally throw an episode on now and then, but it's so formulaic. To be fair though, most crime shows have the same issue if you watch enough episodes. They are very formulaic. Personally, I thought Criminal Minds was one of the better ones for it, compared to like CSI or something. Pokemon. I'm still a fan of the games, but I can't watch the original series again without thinking, how did I ever think this was cool? I'll just use my frying pan as a drying pan. The original Voltron. I still feel nostalgic for it and have fond memories of watching it, but when I actually see an episode these days, it's rough. The same goes for Transformers. One in particular stands out, although many fit the description, Hawaii Five-0, the original series. I used to watch that religiously every week, caught a rerun a few years back and was shocked at how awful everything was about that show. Ghost Adventures. I remember being 16 and totally spooked watching that show. Now I'm 23 and I'm like, really? There was one episode that made me realize the main guy was an asshole. However, you could have noticed this a long time ago. But it's when their team and another ghost team are in the same place at the same time, so the guy starts to interview one of them and tries to bully him in small ways, like telling him mid-interview to take off his glasses and spit out his gum. When the guy does it, he's just smiling like he won something. Drawn Together. Granted, it's an entertaining car wreck, but a car wreck all the same. I mostly watched it for Ling Ling, admittedly. Drawn Together was great for what it was, and it was never presumed to be anything other than an offensive parody of reality TV. Naruto. Holy crap, the whole series is 25% plot and 75% filler, lol. Seventh Heaven. There's nothing I can say to legitimize it, I just had terrible taste. Dexter. After the Trinity series, it was all downhill from there. The last 2 seasons of Prison Break. I used to love the Mega Man Battle Network anime, but now I cringe when I look at it. Reboot. I don't know if anyone remembers that one. I still like it, but it gets pretty cheesy. The show is a great leap in technology, and there's apparently an attempt to revive it. A reboot. I'd like to see that. Lost. A wonderful premise, and the first few seasons were full of wonderful storylines and enough mystery to keep you wanting more. Ultimately, when it came time to wrap it up and answer all of the unanswered questions, the writers fell flat. It's like listening to an overly long and drawn-out setup to a joke. As entertaining as the setup may be, it's just not worth it if the punchline isn't funny. Dinosaurs did not hold up. They lean on that catchphrase way too much. Not da mama! How my parents tolerated it, I'll never know. What? I disagree. While they do have the catchphrases, many episodes are really deep and touch on issues in society in a way that wasn't too common back then. Religion, war, politics, consumerism, it's all there. I thought it was great my second time through recently because I picked up on all those things that I missed as a kid. And in all seriousness, those catchphrases are less common than you think. Teen Wolf. The original, and for that matter, all of the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Episodes. Went back and tried to rewatch an episode of the original, but I was so bored I turned it off after 10 minutes. Basically, it was just ads for the damn cards. I spent a fortune collecting as a kid. Yes, but the series being bad is what makes the abridged series so funny, so I'm okay with it. I've just accepted the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged and Dragon Ball Z abridged episodes as actually being the canon plot for both shows. Sonny and Cher. She picked on him a lot in the monologues, which makes it sadder when you know that they later divorced, and the sketches were awful. But back in the day, it was a groovy show. Of all those variety shows, Carol Burnett was the best. Walking Dead. It got very repetitive. 1. Find a shelter. 2. Something happens. 3. Big fight. 4. Find another shelter. I love Supernatural, but hell, it sucks. As soon as they kept dying, coming back, fighting angels and God, it was too much. I liked it when the brothers were just monster hunters. Beyond belief, fact or fiction, I was always terrified when I watched it as a kid. Started to watch it again with a friend of mine at the age of 19, and it was rather funny. I hyped my son about how awesome MacGyver was and couldn't wait to show him once it came out on Netflix. That show doesn't hold up well. Two Broke Girls. It was a dark time in my life. Had to watch something dumb, something to get my mind off of some stuff. Watched it again recently. Barely got through an episode, and I've watched 4 seasons before that. 2.5 Men. They'd air a rerun a short bit after I got home from school, and we'd watch and laugh. Aside from all the drastic creative changes that happened, I realized that it was never really that funny. I had the same feeling with all of the Chuck Lorre shows. Problem, snide remark about someone, repeat, self-deprecation, snide remarks, end of the episode. As a child of the 80s, it was the A-Team. Saw reruns a while back, and that thing was cheesier than a 99-cent burrito. Sid the Science Kid as a 7 to 10-year-old. Looking back, that is some of the most terrifying animation I've ever seen. Why the hell did I ever enjoy that? I don't see My Little Pony Friendship is Magic posted yet. I had a brony phase up until season 3. I watched 1 episode to see what the fuss was about, and it ruined my Netflix recommendations for months. How I Met Your Mother. I used to watch reruns every night and got excited for new seasons, but after I stopped watching, I looked back and realized it wasn't even that funny. Friends. Everyone on that show is a piece of crap except for Chandler. Digimon. Some of the monsters were cool as crap. Skullgreymon, for example, and the plotline with that one bad guy and the father of one of the kids that created the Digimon world was amazing, but I could never watch it again. Xena. I was very young when I watched it, which is probably why I thought it was amazing. I saw an episode a couple of years back and I couldn't stop cringing. It was just so fake. The acting was kind of bad. House. Don't get me wrong, I love the acting. Some of the dialogue is decent, the character arc is great, but it takes like 10 seasons. So much filler, so much formulaic filler. I could pluck the 20 best episodes from that show. The one with the collapsed building and leg amputee, the one with the mother who dies during childbirth, the one where House is in rehab, and you'd have some of the richest, most interesting and unpredictable TV ever made. But otherwise, it was just wading through so much porridge, so many episodes of introduce patient, House is reluctant to take the case, the team brainstorms diagnosis, House makes fun of them and picks one, they treat the patient, it gets worse. Episode theme is introduced. Today we're discussing race in American justice. Doctors diverge opinions. House is indifferent or oddball. New diagnosis. Probs pisses off Cully. House risks his job or something. Makes it better. Turns out it makes it worse. Patient critical. Episode theme is culminating. House talks to Wilson. Wilson says a word and House figures it out. Patient cured. Roll credits. The episodes that broke from this formula were, without fail, the best ones. Beyblade, Metal Fusion, and the other seasons. I reached my favorite episode of it and cringed. No Game, No Life. I was super into it because of the music and art style, but looking back on it, it was just a fan service show with literally no actual conflict. They try to make the battles seem tense and serious, but in the first episode they established that the main character's ability is that they can't lose. So basically no actual conflict, and they can always get out of it with some random ability that was never mentioned before. The episode I drew the line at was when the main character won a game of chess by seducing the queen and making the opponent's pieces join his side. To be fair, that chess wasn't real chess. It was enchanted. The little sister tried to sacrifice a pawn, but the pawn refused to move. The brother realized they had wills, rallied the troops using the intense morale-boosting powers of a cute little girl, and destroyed his enemy. I liked the show not because of the potential of loss, but because of the entertaining bullcrap they do to win. Skins. Oh god, Skins. For anyone that's getting depressed from seeing their favorite childhood shows getting ripped, I recommend rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's still as good as you remember it. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Amazing as a child, but recent rewatch as an adult, sorely disappointed. I remember loving Legend of the Seeker. I watched 2 episodes here the other day, I cringed. Now I hate that show forever. So, The Secret World of Alex Mack is still cool, right? The Vampire Diaries. More specifically than it just being awkward, stilted, overwrought, ridiculous and totally absurd on a rewatch. I discovered that Ian Somerhalder's performance is actually ridiculously awful. It's so weird and twitchy and over-exaggerated that it's legitimately kind of funny. That crap he does with his eyebrows, man, you have to be in a special headspace to watch it and like it. One of total uncritical acceptance and investment. The Love Boat. Loved it as a kid, watched it again, and killed myself laughing at all the cheesy hookups. That was our family night. Love Boat, then Fantasy Island. We watched that stuff every week. If you go back and watch Fantasy Island, I never realized what a truly dark show it was. As a kid, I never picked up on it. Sliders. Such a cool concept and awesome effects, except, I think it was great until they introduced the Cro-Mags. That was their shark jumping moment. It's also extremely dated now. God, the CGI is horrible by 2017 standards. Other than that, the plot early on was pretty good. Fear the Walking Dead. The last few seasons of Dexter. Also The Big Bang Theory. Saved by the Bell. Contrived, unrealistic, and painful moralizing throughout. All characters only are stereotypes or tropes with no real development. Same here. My sisters and I watched the hell out of Saved by the Bell and Full House. I attempted to watch both in my mid-20s and couldn't get through an entire episode of either. It's amazing that I never thought that the recreations on Unsolved Mysteries were all that cheesy when I was a kid. Sons of Anarchy. I guess I was still fairly young when I started watching it, like 19, but I thought it was a really good show. Like The Sopranos or something. By the end, I was fully aware that it was a really dumb show and completely corny. I'm still pretty convinced that it got stupider as it went along though. Haven't gone back to watch the first season to confirm. It was a boring soap for men. Terra Nova. I loved the dinos. I tried watching it again and it seemed so dumb. It started off so strong too. The first episode was so exciting. After that it took a dip downhill. Horsing around. Entourage. What did I possibly see in that garbage? Californication. I loved the show so much and still love David Duchovny for his role as Hank, but man, is that show crappy. I still can watch it and appreciate parts, but somewhere after the first couple of seasons, it is a literal piece of crap. Desperate Housewives. But I still love it. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a show you'd like to mention, please do so in the comments below. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is available. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again and see you next time.